Hi everybody. If you're watching this later, obviously it's going to be available for replay, so just comment with hashtag replay so that I know that you've seen it. It really helps me out when you leave comments, just so I know, first of all, that people are enjoying the content, and second, it boosts the algorithm so other people can see it too. So it's very helpful for me. So I wanted to come on here and talk to all of my ladies who overthink highlighting and contouring. Okay. There's a lot of ladies that they want to know the roadmap. Just tell me where to put it so I can put it on. And this is really awesome, kind of no-brainer makeup. We often market it that way. No-brainer, easy, 5-minute makeup, which it is. It's super easy. And it does look amazing. Like your very first application, you're going to be like, whoa, this is better than everything I've ever used before. I'm never going back. People are obsessed. But I still get people that have even been using it for a long time. And they're like, I don't really know why I put it here, but I just follow your tutorial and I figure it goes there. And I'm like, wait. Like, we want to know why we're putting things where we're putting it, don't we? And we want to be able to see a difference. So I just wanted to kind of walk you through why we highlight and contour, what's the benefit of it, just so you can kind of see it. Like, I want you to be able to put this on and go, wow, I see what that just did. Like, I definitely appreciate what that just did for my face. So, because you have a beautiful face, you have uniquely beautiful features. And so sometimes if you're following a diagram that I've posted showing, the placement on someone else's face and you're putting it exactly that way on yourself, you might find it looks a little different on you because you look different than that person, right? So I'm just gonna really quickly, before I do anything else, I'm actually gonna do my makeup for you super fast, even though I've done it this way a million times, just because I wanna just show you, okay, it is quick and easy, no-brainer makeup, okay? So I'm gonna take my contour first. I'm gonna go into my palette here, and I'm going to do my makeup really fast, okay? So what we've seen before and what does work, especially if you're just a beginner, you throw on your contour, right? Under the cheeks, we put it around the forehead. It doesn't have to be at all amazing. Put my moisturizer on so it's like taking a while to sink in. We're gonna go down the sides of the nose, okay? Around the lips, and around the jaw, okay? This is the basic placement for your contour, right? And then we've got your main shade and your brightening shade. So we've got a darker shade. Kind of just dot it all around the perimeter of your face. Slap, slap, slap. Do. And then we've got your brightening shade, which is lighter, right? And so we put that basically like in a diamond shape. So straight down the face, down the nose, and then up.
Mama.
Hi, honey, I'm doing a video right now.
Okay, but do you want some chocolate?
No, thank you, but thanks for asking.
Okay.
Okay, so there's like the basics, right? Super fast. And then you can also slap on your blush. Some right there, some right there. We'll look like a clown. And then on the lips. And then we just take a brush. So one of the double-ended brushes. I've got them all over here instead of on my fancy holders. And then we just blend it all together, right? Okay, so a lot of people do this. And you know what? If you're following this basic guideline, the lightest shade goes in a diamond around your eyes. The darkest shade goes kind of in the perimeter of your face, under your cheekbones, around your nose, around your jaw. The main shade goes everywhere else, kind of in the beard area and around your forehead. And then you dot a little bit of color around your lips and your cheeks. And then you blend it all together. And I mean, it's pretty hard to go wrong. Like, I've had my little kids do this with me before, just as like a fun idea for content in my group. And I've said, okay, put some dots here, put some dots there, put a couple lines there without really watching them, and let them do it. And then I've had them blend it all together and it looks really good, like comparatively. You're like, I mean, if a 4-year-old could do it on my face without any makeup experience, it's hard to mess it up, right? Still, it's kind of nice to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and really make the most of your makeup for your own face. So this is the basic kind of idea of where to put it. I'm gonna blend it out and I'm gonna show you, and then I'm going to take it off again. and I'm gonna go over it in a little bit more detail, and I'm gonna show you some tweaks that I make for my face and talk about, you know, different face shapes because we are all a little different. And even though this placement is gonna work for everybody, there might be something that actually flatters your face even better. And you might find that tweaking your placement from this can make it actually a huge difference. And I want you to kind of pay attention to your own face and your own unique assets, and then kind of understand why we put things where we put them and see where it would make the most sense for you to put your stuff, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm doing this part first just so I don't overwhelm people too much, because I've got my type A people that are always telling me, please, like, don't change it. You keep changing the way you do it. I don't know where to put things because you do it different every time. And I'm always saying, that's kind of the point, is that it's such good, easy stuff. Like, you can do it however you like. There's a certain personality that just appreciates, tell me exactly where to put it. Okay, so for you people, that's why I wanted to do this first. Filling in a little bit where I want a little extra. This is for you people, just so you can see, okay, I mean, it's not like you're gonna mess it up if you don't put it exactly in a certain place. It's still gonna look good, okay? It's still gonna look better than any makeup you've had before. I'm pretty much guarantee it. Okay, so that's great, okay? And you can do it super fast. You can do that, especially if you're not talking. You could literally do that in 2-3 minutes. A lot of people do. You can stick a little bit on your brows. You can throw a little bit of eyeshadow on. You could do a bronzer if you want, and that's it. So it's easy, okay? However, now let's break it down, okay? Because we've got a little bit of time, and I want to help you out with that. I love to teach. I'm a homeschooled mama of 7 kids. Everybody knows I like art. I think that's why I like makeup so much, because I love the beauty that we can see in every person's face. It's just amazing. We're so incredibly crafted and all so different. And yet we all have like a common beauty of humanity, right? But yeah, and I also love the creativity that comes with makeup. It's just so fun. Now, here's my face again, okay? So let's do that all over again. I'm gonna put my moisturizer back on. I shouldn't have done that in the first place. It's just like a habit to put my Saint Cream on first. It just is a great primer for the face. It just kind of preps the skin. Today I used actually my Solstice Balm as a primer, and I loved that. That was pretty cool. I showed it in my VIP group, so for those of you who are in there, you'll see it. And I really liked it. But anyways, I'm used to using my Saint Cream just to prep my skin. You don't need a silicone-based primer. In fact, you shouldn't use one because it will repel the makeup. But just prepping my skin with a good hydrating moisturizer is kind of what I mean as a primer. Okay, so done that. Now I'm gonna start by giving myself a nice even skin tone with my base shade. So I'm gonna go in with my Candlelit. That's this one right here. And I'm gonna use my blush and bronzer brush and give myself some coverage. So this is a good brush for kind of light to medium coverage. And this color, Candlelit, is a really interesting color because it actually complements so many people. See, we all have different colors in our skin, and cream makeup is really amazing, just the way that it kind of conforms to the skin, not just in texture, but also in color. So a lot of people can wear lots of different colors because we have so many different tones in our skin, and this just kind of melts right out and blends right into your skin. And I actually, because I am over 35, I find that my mature skin kind of favors a slightly darker shade than I used to wear. So when I was younger, I would go for the lightest of the light shade of foundation, and I needed that. Otherwise, everything just looked too orange or too dark on me. But now that I'm getting older, and it still actually is that way, if I try using like a liquid foundation from another brand, I can't really get away with a darker shade. But with Saint's Cream foundations, I totally can, and it's very beneficial for me because it takes down all that redness and, you know, all these areas of discoloration. Plus, The fact that I am also going to be using a lighter shade helps, because then if my face looks a little darker than my neck, I can always add in that lighter shade and that brings it all together. So that's what I'm going to do next after I color correct, because I do have some, whatever this is happening around my eye here, and some darkness just from being a mom and all that stuff. And I've got a little bit of a blemish attack, but not too bad. So I'm going to use, my brushes are all over the place. I'm going to use my spot brush actually. It's a demi brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this color called Sunlit. That's this one right here. It's a yellow toned highlight shade. So it's a foundation shade, but because it has a yellow tone, it's very good for counteracting these purple areas. So there's lots of different highlight shades that might be recommended for you as a color corrector. It's not a one size fits all, but generally, if you have kind of bluey tones, mango's really good. If you have purpley tones, then Sunlit here is really good. And if you deal more with almost like brownish discoloration, so if under the eyes it looks kind of muddy looking and really quite dark, then there's actually a lip and cheek color called Frenchie that I've talked about quite often, and it works really well for a lot of ladies as a color corrector, believe it or not, under the eyes, and also in areas where they've got melasma and sunspots and things like that, because those are often kind of a brownish, really more of a green undertone in those areas. And Frenchie can work really well as a color corrector for those types of things. So again, your face is not the same as everyone else's face in terms of colors or shape or anything like that. So you really want to pay attention to your own specific face when you're doing your makeup, right? And get makeup that works for you. You don't have to conform to your makeup. You want your makeup to conform to you. So that's what we're going for here. Okay, so let's talk contour. Let's talk about why we would want to contour in the first place. Okay, so contouring is like Spanx for the face, right? So think about Spanx. Why do we wear Spanx? Why do women want Spanx? There's lots of different reasons, right? We might want it to bring us in. We might want it to lift us up, right? There might be areas we want to minimize or smooth out, and there might be areas we want to kind of lift up, thinking about us moms, all of that. So contouring is kind of like that when it comes to, it's like the Spanx of makeup, okay? Contouring is going to really chisel out, define, and bring out your features in the best way possible, in the way that you want to bring it out. So if, like at the beginning, when I just slapped on my makeup, you saw me put a diagonal stripe down my cheekbones, okay? And that can be super flattering for a lot of people. As a general rule, a diagonal line coming from where your ear connects to your cheek up here, down towards the mouth, that can be very, very flattering. It's very elongating for the face. So for a lot of women, that's something you want. You might want to lengthen out the face, give kind of that chiseled, angled look to your face. For me personally, that's not always the most flattering thing for me because I already have a really long face. So if you're like me where you have a longer face, or you maybe due to aging, you find that your face has kind of fallen a little bit, or maybe it's a little sunken in, anything like that, and you want to give your face a little bit more shape, then you're not going to want to just do like that long, thin line, right? You're going to want a little boost. And right now, it's all the rage to get like cheek fillers and all that stuff, right? You hear about that all the time. So obviously there's a lot of women that desire that look. So if you're one of those people and you want cheeks that have more volume, you want to plump up your face, give your face more shape, then you don't necessarily want to just make it super long looking, right? So the thing is too, cheekbones are super pretty. Like cheekbones are so beautiful. And so if you're kind of cutting into your natural cheekbone using contour, because remember, contour means shadow. So any place that you put your contour means you're going to place a shadow there, which means that that area is going to look like it's sinking in. Okay, so keep that in mind, because that means that if you're going to have your line starting up here, that means that that visually is going to look like your face is sinking in that area. And so then you're only going to have a little bit of space up here where it's light, where it's going to have any amount of volume. So you really want to keep in mind where you've got shadowed and where you have that's light and prominent, because anything light and bright is going to stand out more. Anything in shadow where your contour is going to come back. Okay, so if you've got a lot of width on the side of your face and you want to kind of chisel that out, bring things in so that the focus is around your eyes, then you're going to want to kind of keep things more steep and in shadow, and that's exactly what that's going to do. It's going to bring this part in the middle forward, right? And you want that. If your face is narrower or just longer in general, then you might have a little bit of that steep, say your face is long but a little bit wide. You might want to start there and have it coming down diagonally, but then you're still going to want to kind of scoop it around rather than straight down to give your face a little bit of that plumping action. Does that make sense? Let me show you. So I want to have some cheeks. I don't really have cheeks right now at all. And I want my cheeks back. So I'm going to bring out what cheek I have. Okay. So when I smile, I can see that I have some cheeks still. I do have cheeks. But once I kind of drop them, they're gone. So I'm keeping in mind where they are when I'm smiling. And that is exactly what I want to exaggerate. So I can feel my cheekbones, okay? And this is what I want to exaggerate. So I'm gonna keep my contour a little bit below that. So here's my ear, the top of my ear, it's connecting here. If I wanted to slim out my face, I'd keep this up a little higher, but I want to actually plump it. So I'm gonna keep it a little bit lower. Right where that bone is, I'm gonna kind of give my cheekbone a hug, okay? And I'm gonna bring that in. I'm not gonna bring it any closer than the inner, like where my pupil is basically. And I'm gonna have that stop there. So see where I've cut that, that's all of a sudden kind of chiseled out a cheekbone. Now, of course, I'm not gonna leave it like this, okay? But that's where I want my line to be. And it will define my face. It's still kind of that Spanx action, brings that right in right here. But it also pushes up. It's like a little push-up bra at the same time. All of a sudden, I've got volume because this whole area now looks nice and light, right? So not only is there shadow here, all of a sudden, there's something prominent above it. Okay, so that is the power of contour. All of a sudden, not only do I have some sculpting, I've got cheeks now, yay. So I don't have to smile, although smiling is great, but I don't have to be smiling in order to see that cheekbone. So now I'm just blending it in. I love this brush because you can define it so well without it kind of going everywhere. You know how some of the other brushes blend really well, but it kind of almost blends it too much where it blends into the other makeup. The detail brush here is really great for keeping it exactly where you want it. So now I've got some cheekbones. Now, another thing that people like to define often is their jaw, okay? So why would you want to define your jaw? Well, first of all, jaws are beautiful. I think the jawbone, the jawline is so pretty. And so if you like that really kind of chiseled, snatched jaw, you're going to want to keep that angle nice and steep. If you like a more kind of soft feminine jawline, then you're going to want to round it out more, right? So it just kind of depends on what you want, what you have, what you like, and all of that, okay? I like kind of a snatched jawbone. So I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right here because I've got a little bit of waddle right there, and I want to define the actual jawbone. So I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right in here so that my natural jawbone becomes more prominent, okay? A lot of times we have a lot of falling that comes around the jaw area, and we get some jowls, and sometimes we gain weight right in this area with like a double chin and stuff like that. I know when I'm pregnant, I definitely get a lot more in this area, so I really like to kind of slim this bone at those times. But even though I don't have weight gain in that area right now, I do still have a little bit of a jowl that's forming just because I'm over 35, and that's just what happens to us at that age. So not a lot, but just a little bit that I'm starting to notice. And so going right along that jawbone will really tighten that up, see? And just kind of firm it up a little bit, which is nice. So again, it just gives the illusion that that is in shadow, therefore that is receding, right? That's what the eye sees. And so what you end up seeing is all this nice and bright. Do that over here. I hope this is helpful. If you're watching and you have any questions, please let me know and I'd be really happy to answer. Do ask. Okay, with the nose, I get questions a lot about nose contouring because a lot of times we watch tutorials and we see people just slap it on either side of their nose and then blend it out, right? When it comes to the nose, you can make your nose look completely a different shape if you put those lines a certain way. So if you're not paying attention to how you do the lines on your nose, you might not be thrilled with it. A lot of people give themselves a triangle nose where they kind of follow this natural slope and they go up here and they're just kind of going, right? Like going fast. And they go down like this and they add shadow all the way down like this. And then they fill it with something light. And you literally have like this triangle nose, right? I mean, you might like that, but most people are kind of like, I'm not really thrilled with the way my nose looks. So pay a little bit more attention to that because it depends on what you want for your nose. But a lot of people, they don't want to widen their nose and make it look wider than it is. A lot of times they just want to kind of highlight the lightest part of the nose. So first of all, one thing you can do, as we age, especially our noses keep growing, this stuff just like it starts hanging. I don't know if you have this problem. I already have a pretty prominent nose and I've noticed as I get older that the fleshy part around my nose is starting to kind of hang down. It becomes a little bit more bulbous on the end there. My grandmother had that same issue and I would look at pictures of her when she was younger and I'm like, your nose does not look the same there from when you were 20 to now when you're 80. And that's just the way that it goes as we age, our noses change. And so it's not a big deal, it's part of life, but that's kind of a perk of having makeup because we can give that illusion. See, I've just shortened my nose a little bit to the way that it was 10 years ago. So that's kind of nice. You can also kind of bring that shadow up and shrink in that little bulb if you want to. Okay, and you can keep those shadow lines close together. The closer together those shadow lines are, the thinner your nose is going to appear. So you might not necessarily want to give yourself a super thin nose, but just keep that in mind. The wider apart these lines are, the wider your nose is going to look. The thinner together they are, the thinner your nose will look, okay? So you might just be like, well, I like the exact shape of my nose the way it is. And you could either choose not to contour it at all, or just pay attention to where those natural lines are that you like and just follow those natural shadows, right? So for me, I'm just gonna kind of follow the very top part of my nose where I feel it kind of at the smallest point. I'm gonna try to follow that down all the way around. All right. The other thing you can do is you can define this little dent right here. If you like this ball at the end of your nose, some people do and some people don't. If you do, you can add a little bit of a shadow right there, and there you go. We're shaping the nose and just kind of defining that little ball at the end. Now, I don't even know if that's something I normally like to define, but sometimes I'll do it just for fun. Okay, another thing. So if you have a really long forehead, okay, this is another thing that people get confused by. They'll be like, they've got bangs and they're like, well, I have to put it there because everybody always puts it there in the diagram. It's like, you do not have to put any makeup there under your bangs because it's not even going to show. If you don't want to show that, don't do it. Don't waste your makeup, right? And you don't even have to contour your forehead at all if you don't want to. If you've got a pretty small forehead, you might find that adding some contour there shrinks it more than you really want. And if that's the case, don't put it there. You don't have to put it anywhere. This is your own makeup. So I think it helps to know why you put it where you put it so that you can decide if that's where you want to put it or not. Does that make sense? So a lot of women don't like their long foreheads. A lot of women talk to me about how can I shrink my 5 head and make it a 4 head, which I think is hilarious. I've never heard the term until I started doing Saint, and then people talk to me about it all the time. I don't know who started that, but I thought it was quite funny. Anyways, so you can add a little bit of contour. I don't have a long forehead, so that's not why I do it. I do it because I find it adds some nice, pretty dimension and frames my face and just kind of gives that 3D look to my makeup that I really like. I don't have a long forehead. I feel like my forehead is pretty proportioned. So the other thing that I want you to keep in mind is you don't contour things you hate. Okay, that's really important to understand too. I am not a proponent of that. I don't like that idea that like, oh, I want to use contour and change myself and make myself look like someone else. That is not the point. The point is actually, what do you love about your face? What do you love about your features, and what do you want to bring out? And yes, we can minimize certain things. I don't love my acne. I don't love my my bags under my eyes. You know what I mean? I don't love that my nose has been growing personally, but that doesn't mean I hate my face. I want to bring out my features that I really like, because I think that I've been designed a certain way and I look a certain way, and I want to celebrate that. And I want my clients to celebrate that. So that's something I really want you to keep in mind as well. You shouldn't think, oh, I don't have, you know, a nose like that girl, so I need to make my nose look like hers. Or I don't have lips like that girl, so I need to make them look like hers. That's not what this is about, okay? But it is about defining your face the way that you like it, to bring out your own beautiful natural features. So that does bring me to my mouth. Okay, so as we age, our lips can kind of shrink in as well a little bit. Whether you have naturally large lips or naturally small lips, you might notice that they start to recede and kind of come in a little bit. So you might really appreciate contour for this, that you can define those lips and bring them back out. Okay, so I just used my detail brush and just kind of went right around the sides. Now, this isn't well blended yet, and it doesn't need to be, because we're going to add some other stuff. But did you see what that did for my lips? So, again, it's just all about defining your features and bringing them out, okay? If you don't want to do that, don't do it. But I like to do it. It just adds a little bit of shadow around the mouth and really brings them out. Okay, so now we're going to move on to brightener, and then we will blend everything together, okay? So for brightener, I think I'm gonna use my blend brush. This is my blend brush. It's a very light coverage brush, okay? So when I wanna just apply a small amount of product, this is the one I'm gonna use. And since I did put my overall foundation pretty much everywhere, and this is not meant to be layered upon layered upon layer upon layer, I'm just using this light brush because I don't wanna put too much more makeup. So I'm gonna show you my favorite places to brighten, okay? My chin is one that I like to define personally, because that's an area that's a little bit more prominent on everybody's face, right? So it's kind of one of those points of the face that if you brighten it, it's going to come forward. But just keep in mind, what you brighten will come forward. So if you already have a super prominent chin and you don't want to draw any extra attention to it, maybe you don't want to brighten it, okay? That jawline that we contoured around, I actually want to bring that out a little bit. Because again, I like a really chiseled jaw, okay? A chiseled jaw gives great shape to the face. Whereas when I'm even looking straight on, you can see that jaw now. See, it's got that contour and then it's brightened right here. And so it's just a little bit more prominent, which I really like. So kind of those, you know, angles and curves, right? So the angle of the jaw and the curve of the cheek can be really, really pretty. There's a lot of women that don't like that they have curvy cheeks. That's a good thing. A lot of people really want that. You should definitely embrace that. So just brightening along that jaw gives that nice shape to the jaw, okay? So just where I want a little extra pop, that's where I'm adding my brightener. Now, again, you can just kind of throw it on in a diamond shape. That's going to accentuate your eyes, draw attention to your eyes, which is the place most people want to draw attention to. Can't go wrong doing that. But these are just some extra tips. I also like to brighten a lot of times around the nose, because sometimes there's an extra redness around that area. And so if I'm not using a color corrector around there especially, I sometimes like to add a little bit of brightener. The only thing is, if you put too much product around your nose, you're going to see it. It will gather a little bit, and that will bug a lot of people. So keep in mind, and that's another reason I really like this brush, because it's super soft. It's not going to pick up too much product, and it kind of blends as it applies, which is nice, especially for those areas that can kind of gather a little bit. So that's another area I like to brighten. Okay, down that nose, we've contoured it. Now we're going to add some brightener. Okay. And I forgot I was gonna define that button, so I'll go back over that with that. Okay, so a little bit of brightener on the nose, where I want it to be prominent and only there. So just a small line here. Some people go even thinner than that. They will use a brush like this and just go just like a tiny tip of the nose. If you have a particularly wide nose, you might really like that trick because it really gives dimension to the nose and makes that small point the very most prominent point. So it just kind of shapes it outwards a little bit more, which is nice. Makeup can sometimes give the face kind of that flattened effect. So if you have wide features and then it's already, you're adding that kind of flattening effect with one-dimensional makeup, that can kind of exaggerate that. And a lot of people don't like that, right? So 3D makeup is fantastic for wider faces in that way too, because it just gives so much more dimension to the face. Okay, so another area that I'll brighten before I do the eyes. Anywhere that your face naturally kind of recedes and is a little bit more hollow or sunken in, like for example, my forehead, it naturally recedes right here and gets a little bit hollow in that area. So I like to actually add a little bit of brightener right there in the center to kind of even that out a little bit. So again, whatever you lighten and brighten comes forward, okay? And whatever you darken recedes. Okay, so now the brightening for around the eyes. So around the eyes, you see me all the time do kind of a diamond shape around the eyes, or I'll talk about like pie piece shapes right here, okay? That's very flattering, especially compared to just putting like a semicircle under the eyes, which ends up kind of making a puffy spot under the eye, because again, anything light and bright under the eye, well, anywhere on the face, becomes prominent. So if you kind of have a shape like this, then that's gonna almost cast a shadow under that and cause this semicircle to come forward and look puffy, which most people don't want, right? It kind of looks a little unnatural and not very flattering. So if you brighten this whole area here, that's going to give a very beautiful lifted, elongated effect. It's going to still draw so much attention around the eyes, but in the most flattering way. However, if you fill in this big chunk with all light color, especially if you're over 35, and then your eyes are always moving, that's gonna kind of cause all that makeup to gather. So you do wanna keep it really light. You don't want a ton of makeup in that area, especially right in the middle, okay? So we're gonna want to focus a lot of that color just where it's darkest, first of all. So inner corner of the eye, okay? We're still kind of creating that same pie piece shape. We're just gonna be a little bit more strategic with where we place it, and then we're gonna blend it together. So inner corner of the eye is always flattering to brighten the inner corner of the eye. The only time I would say to be careful about brightening the inner corners of the eyes too much is if your eyes are naturally spaced quite far apart. Because again, anything really light and bright becomes more prominent. And so if there's already quite a gap between your two eyes, and then you add more brightening in that area, it's going to exaggerate that, okay? So that's the only time I would say maybe don't go too crazy with the brightening. Most of the time it's gonna be super flattering. The other place that you can place your brightening is on the outer corner of the eye. And I'm going to just show you here. I'm gonna place it about here. Okay, so not filling all this area in, but about here, just under the outer corner of the eye. And then we're gonna bring that up, right up to the temple. Okay, I was just talking to someone yesterday, maybe even today, about sunken in temples. That's not something I get asked about a lot. But I do have that. I have kind of small temples. My whole face is pretty narrow right now. And so if you're like me and you want to kind of plump the face and give a little bit more volume to that area, especially, this can be a great trick. But overall, it's just a really nice lifting trick that kind of gives like this instant facelift. Okay, so see what that did? Now, if you have a very wide face, this is still really flattering because we've got the contour here that chisels and sculpts. So I think it's gonna be flattering regardless, but you could also choose just to keep it about to where the tail of your brow goes. Try it both ways and see which way you prefer. So see how that gave like instant volume and also lift because it's lifting up at a diagonal, which is always flattering. It's always gonna be flattering to lift upwards on the face, because especially as time goes on, everything wants to start drooping down. And so if we can keep lifting upwards, that's usually, if not always, gonna be super, super flattering. Okay, so again, out here, up, up, up to here. Man, this room is always freezing, and now finally that there's good weather, now I'm sweating. Oh, it's super hot. Okay, so the same thing when it comes to blush placement. So I've only got a little bit of time left here. And then I'm actually teaching a class for my lovely hostess, Naomi. Hopefully you've learned some tips, and please let me know if anything doesn't make sense or you have any specific questions, maybe about a certain face shape or whatever. Okay, so brows, that's another thing that I could talk all day about because brows make a huge difference with your face. Really frame the face, and you can go different directions with how you want to shape them and all of that, but I think that's something for another day. Bronzer is another thing that can make a huge difference. It can really frame your face and shape your face much like contour can, except you want to be careful with placement for your bronzer because bronzer is going to add warmth. So if you add something warm under here, it's going to look really unnatural. It's not going to look like that shadow that we achieved with the contour because it's going to look like an unnatural color. Unless you have really warm skin. If you have really warm colored skin, then sometimes you can get away with a bronzer as a contour because that might look like a shadow on you. But on me, this is the lightest bronzer that I have from Saint. It's called Tan Lines, and it's made for fair skin, but you could still tell it's quite warm compared to my contour, right? It's meant to give a sun kiss. So it's going to add that warmth. Hi, Marianne. It's going to add that warmth, and it can still be really pretty and like help in sculpting the face because we can put it around the perimeter of the face, but we're going to add it more to those higher points of the face where the sun would naturally kiss, okay? Just above the contour on the cheekbones. How are you, Marianne? Speaking of beautiful. All right, and then I'm also going to add that down my neck. So I really feel like bronzer is an amazing tool for every woman, regardless of your age, but especially when you're over 35 or you're just an exhausted mom with lots of life drained from your face. That vibrancy really helps to wake up your face. And as we age, we lose a lot of natural vibrancy and our skin turns a little bit more ashy. So those warm tones really make a huge difference. You might be shocked if you're not typically a bronzer girl. I wasn't because I'm so pale, and I didn't think I could pull off bronzer because traditionally most bronzers look way too orange on me. It's a game changer though when you find the right shade. So let me know if you're looking for the right shade for you. Speaking of color, that brings me to lip and cheek. Look at this one. This is Lolly. This is the shade of the month, and it's almost the end of the month, which means it's going out and you won't be able to get it anymore after the end of this month. So run, because it's amazing. Look how scary it looked in the tin versus on my lips. But I really, really, really highly recommend something with a little life in it, something with a little brightness and color. And you don't have to be scared of something like Lolly because it is sheer. So you can build it up. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it's super pretty. It gives a nice punch without being over the top, and you can always build it up if you want more of a flush, which I'm doing because I do want that. And you'll notice that I'm putting that all over that area that I want the volume. Okay, color will do what light does. If you highlight an area with something light and bright, that's going to make it prominent. Same goes if you put some color there. Okay, so if you place your blush, for example, low on your face, expect that people's eyes are going to go to that. It's going to pull down to where the blush is. So if you want to add volume to your cheeks, you can put it lower and still bring it higher though, because this whole area then is going to be cheek area. Okay. If you want to elongate your face and slim it out, then you're going to want to keep your blush high, probably a lot higher than you would think. So if you went with that kind of chiseled contour right up here and go straight down, keep your blush above that, above the contour, right up on your cheekbone where you want it. It's gonna be super flattering, okay? For me, I want the volume in my cheeks. I want to have that full cheek look. And so I'm keeping as much of this space as cheek area as possible. And my contour is lower than it might be for someone else. Okay, if that makes sense. Same with my illuminator. I'm going to highlight this area now. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a nice dewy shimmer. Let me try first with Angel. Angel is a cream. So the creams are way more subtle. You're gonna put it on, you're gonna be like, at the first time you put it on, you're gonna be like, I don't even see it. I get those comments all the time from people. It doesn't show up on my skin, and I'm like, okay, but go look in the mirror and just really slowly move your face around, and then you'll see what it's doing. It's a very subtle, dewy sheen. It's like a little candlelit glow, and it just makes your skin look really healthy and hydrated. It's not meant to look really obvious. If you want more of like a pow highlight, then you're gonna want one of the powders. The powders are amazing. My favorite is Glamazing, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It does look more obvious. So if that's what you're going for, go for something like Glamazing. If you like the pink, then you might like Photoshop. I will show you. Here's the powder illuminators, okay? So if you want more of that obvious glow, this one's called Photoshop, and it's got some pink, see that? And it's just going to catch the light and really highlight that cheekbone. So if you want to have more of a cheek and you want it to be more rounded, bring that highlight a little bit out so it's a little bit of a wider line. If you want a really slim, sleek, chiseled cheekbone, you're gonna wanna keep it up high, okay? Kind of going just up here, up towards the temple in a thinner line. See? I'm gonna bring it down a little bit because I want more cheek. And I want it to have kind of that curved look so that when the light hits, it's right here and it's more in a curving shape. Does that make sense? So we're playing with light and shadow, and we're giving shape to the face. So pay attention to what shape you're creating. Again, you can just slap it on like I did at the beginning, and it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer makeup, so don't feel anxiety over it. It's gonna look good regardless. But keep these tips in mind because you can definitely take it from great to amazing. When you consider your own face shape, your own assets, and what you want to play up, it can make a huge difference. That's the same color, by the way, Photoshop. I just placed it on my eye. It's a really pretty eyeshadow as well, and I actually put a little bit on my lips too. All right, we've got 5 minutes or less left of this class. I'm gonna do my brows quickly. I'm gonna use my line brush, and I'm going to stick it in my contour. Now, because I'm gonna do a class right after this, I'm not going to set this, but the final step with this makeup is definitely to set it. And that's also great when it comes to if you've got like a little extra makeup on, to prevent it from looking cakey at all or makeup-y in areas that you don't want it to look like that. The Perfector sponge, which is somewhere, I already wet it. It's right here. And this is a fantastic tool used with your setting spray. That's just going to, you're gonna stipple it into your skin, and it's gonna just kind of pound it all perfectly in so that when it's moving, because it's designed to keep moving with your skin, it's gonna just be right in your pores and move with your pores, move with your skin. So it's never gonna gather or anything like that. It's a really good tool. You're gonna want that. If you've had your palette for any length of time and you don't have it, you'll be shocked by how awesome it is actually when you use it for the first time. You wanna use it wet, and then you wanna squeeze out all the excess water into a microfiber cloth or a towel or paper towel or something so that there's no more water that can come out of it, because you don't want it wet on your face or it's gonna wreck your makeup. But you want it nice and soft and plushy because it starts like half this size. So when you get it wet, it will inflate, and that's how you know it's ready. But you don't want it wet, so it should just feel cool to the touch. And then you spray your setting spray on it and just bounce it into the skin all over. It's gonna feel like this lovely little spa treatment or something. And it'll keep it in place all day, and it will look amazing. But because I don't wanna set this and waste my setting spray, because I'm just literally gonna take it right off to do my next class, I'm actually not gonna do that this time. So that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this and gotten a few tips out of it. I had a little bit of mascara on already, so I'm not gonna do that, but that would be the final step, obviously. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, again, please do let me know. If you want a part 2, let me know. If you think there's stuff that I've left out or you wanna know more, talk to me and I'd be happy to do that. I am heading over to my next class now to teach that, but I had fun teaching you guys and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay.